the last week of the business analysis training. And so just to recap of some of the things that we've discussed in the past 4 or 5 weeks now. Yeah. So we've discussed on the investigation techniques. Like once you are assigned to a project, how do you go about eliciting your requirements? And so the various investigation techniques that you can use multiple investigation techniques in one project. So you can use interview some people, and you can do workshop as well for maybe like a large group of people, while you can use one-to-one interview, maybe with like senior managers, depending on the project and the availability anyway. So, and also you can use some document analysis, and also observation or shadowing for some other, depending on the project. So you have to decide which investigation techniques is fit for that particular project. So we discussed on the investigation techniques and how you can, what are the things that you need to do, while you are, when you start a project, how do you go about that? So we also discussed about that, and also the preparation, what you have to do pre and also during the workshop, and also the various ways. We discussed about the brainstorming, about the round robin, and also some other post-it note or post-it exercise as well. And also we discussed basically what you need to do as well after you finish your workshop or your interview, that you need to send a follow-up email to thank them for attending, and also maybe just like a brief of summary of what you covered during the workshop or during the interview. Then you start documenting your requirements, and we discuss about you carry out the analysis, the gap analysis. So you discuss about the current process, or the current situation of their processes, and also the to be as well. And also we discuss on the various categories of requirements. We discussed on functional requirements, non-functional requirements, technical requirements, which needs to look into the software, the hardware requirements, and also the internet and operability of the solution as well. And we also look into the general requirements, which has to do with, let's say, legal policy, the culture, the branding as well. And we discussed on the user stories as well, how you can write a user stories. I think we covered that last week. And also the various way to model your requirements. So we discussed that you can use case diagram to model your requirements. And also you can use context diagram to show the data flow from the system to various entities, external entities. And we discussed about how you can show the process, the sequence of tasks. So using our swim lane diagram, using the PMA. And we've discussed on the using Gekken language, and also the hierarchy of user stories, the features, the epic, epic. So we discussed about that. So this, now that you've documented, so now, sorry. So today, now that you've documented all your requirements, you've done your process flows, you've done your swim lane, your use case diagram, depending on what you need to do, and you've written all your user stories and your acceptance criteria. All what you need to do now is to validate. So that is the next step, like the next process that you need to do. So because when you document your requirements, you need some the stakeholders to validate what you have written, because probably maybe they've given you those requirements or those information about maybe 3 weeks before now, or maybe 2 weeks, or probably they may not even be in a good state of mind when they were giving you. And maybe it's possible that a lot of things must have changed after they have given you the requirements. So probably maybe there's a new regulatory regulations that actually have impact. The regulation has impact on the project, or maybe on the solution that they've decided that they want to do, or their requirements. It could be a new policies, maybe from the government, that because so a lot of things, there are so many things that could have happened between that time that you gathered the requirements, or the giving you the requirements, And now that you've documented it, so that is why it's always good for you to validate. So it's just an opportunity to check with them to say, okay, these are the documents, these are the requirements that I've documented that you have given me, and these are the processes that I've documented. Can you review it? So what you just need to do is to send it to them by email. You can just or maybe give them notice. Maybe you can just say, oh, I'll be sending you the documents maybe in 2 days time, although it's not mandatory, but I think that would go a long way, because so that at least they can prepare for that, saying, oh, I'm expecting the requirement document from Habi, so I need to clear my calendar. So they can just, try to reserve, some hours, to review that, so that they can clear their calendar for that purpose, because it depends on the urgency of the project. So I would rather do that to, warn them ahead, to give them notice saying I will be sending this in tomorrow or 2 days time. So, and I will need you to review within 48 hours, because you need to give them that time, to be able to review it and feedback to you as well. So once you send this document, and that is that was why I said, I think last week, saying if your when you do the visio, maybe your process use case diagram or your swim lane diagram, you have to make sure you save it as PDF, so that they can view it. Because when you send the visio file, you know um just like that to the stakeholder, they may not have Visio license, like MS Visio, Microsoft Visio on their computer. So they will not be able to view it. So that's why it's always good for you to convert it to PDF. Then they can view it as well. And so when you send all these documents to them, so you ask them to review it and to provide comments. And one thing you need to notice, that you need to give them time, like that they need to feedback to you, whether yes or no, whether they have comments or they don't have any comments, or maybe they just want to approve it, they can provide their approval within maybe 48 hours. Even though you still have a lot of time, you can give them maybe 5 days if you think, depending on the project timeline. So, but that's why you need to give them enough time. You don't have to rush them, because they need to review it to see, to make sure everything that because it's more or less like they are putting their signature on, saying this is, I've approved it, because that is what you want from them. As a BA, I want my stakeholders to approve my documents, because without the approval of the stakeholders, you cannot proceed with any development or design, or sending it out to the suppliers or the technical team. So they need to approve all the documents, all the documentation that you've provided. They need to approve it and sign it off. So that's where we say sign it off. So validation is just is a critical step that you need to take, as part of this process, to make sure somebody review what you have documented and they're happy with it. Just like I said, in case if something has changed, maybe policy or regulation has affected it, they need to make sure they can now tell you that, oh, sorry, Happy, we've just had a change. We had a board meeting last week, and now it's going to impact this solution. Can you please remove this item, maybe functional requirement 1.21? Can you please add this to it? So there is an opportunity for them to, add or maybe information, had give you more requirements, or maybe remove from it, or just to review. Even sometimes, probably maybe something I've said to you, you've written it in maybe the interpretation that you've actually documented is not the same as what they meant. So it's an opportunity for them to say, no, this is not what I meant. Can you change this? Can you? So once you carry out this process, then it's possible that they will give you some comments and they say you should update it. So assume that now that we finish all our documentation, I've sent maybe 0.1 to them. So assume that my stakeholders now review. They said, oh, Abby, this is 0. Can you change this section 2.1? Can you remove this? Can you have this? So now I need to go away and update that with the comments that they've actually, given to me. So with the updates, then it will change to 0.2, version 0.2. So that is where your version control really matters a lot, so that you can easily track. You can do the audits maybe later to say, okay, 0.1, what changed in it? Because it's possible that maybe your manager reviews 0.1 and now you are giving him 0.3. And the manager will just like, what's the difference? So the manager could just easily go to the section that you've put in the version, the history, you understand, in the on the page, you can easily go there and say, okay, it was section 2.3 that was modified, because you need to make sure you also put it on the documents as well. So that is why. So the change version, the version control. So because the version will change once you update something and another person review it, then it will change again. Anyway, assume that now you've updated it 0.2, you've sent it back to the stakeholders, the people that needs to review it. It could be more than one person. So you send it back to them, they provide a comment, and once, even if you have like 4 key stakeholders that need to sign off the requirements, because it is most time it's not all the people that you gather the requirements from, is not all of them that will sign off the requirement, because it's possible that you gather requirements from about 8 people, and only 4 people will just need to provide a sign off, need to approve it, like the top level. So depending on the key people that maybe your project managers must have informed you that these are the people that need to, the SMEs that need to sign off this document. All you need to do, once you distribute the document to them with all the information, they review it, then they can say, oh yeah, I'm fine with it. The other person to say, I'm fine with it. If peradventure you have one person that say, oh, I'm not happy with this, then, and they want changes, you need to update it and send it to others and let them know the changes that you've made. Everyone needs to know that changes as well. That means it will now be 0.3 again. They need to review, and if they also actually consent to it, say, oh yeah, that's right, we are happy with that, and every one of them provided the sign off, and that is your document. So you finalize your document. So that's the validation done there. So it now depends if you have like the technical team that you need to send those documents to, or maybe you are going to, send it to the supplier, then you can send that. So that means you've done, your part of the documentation, you finished that process. And after that, because after then, that's when they will now start doing maybe the designing and all those processes. But most times it depends on if you're permanent employee, it's possible that you still see that project through to implementation. But sometimes maybe as a contractor, you may not really see, sometimes you may not see that project through the implementation to the UAT. So, but at least as part of the documentation, you've actually completed your tasks for that. And so that is so now, assume that all those design developments, everything has been taking place. So now, definitely before, assuming that the technical team or the suppliers, they've actually implemented all those, requirements. Now they want you to test it, because the user acceptance testing is when you have because you are the one, is more or less like you are the customer, of the technical team. You are the customer, so you need to make sure that what you have requested from the supplier is actually fit, and is what your customer is what your clients, which are you, because you are the customer to the supplier, you are a customer to the technical team, but the stakeholders are your own customers as well. You are representing the stakeholders, so you are like customer, you understand? So what you need to do is to make sure, all those things, you are responsible for the UAT. So this is what we call UAT. So if I say who is responsible for scheduling UAT, because it's possible that the tester, the QA, which are the software tester, the developers, all those solution architects, they've been doing their homework, and probably depending on the contact that you have with the technical team or your supplier, they may just email you and say, Happy, or the BA, they will contact the BA that, oh, we are ready for the UAT, because it's probably because most times you have that as part of the project plan. So they will know that from this period to this period, we're going to do the UAT. And if they are working according to the project plan, so definitely you know when the UAT is going to be. You are responsible to contact the stakeholders, because not all your stakeholders, most times they will not know, your project plan, but because you are part of the project team that is actually implementing what they want, their solution. You are responsible to contact your stakeholders to say, oh, you send an email to them, or you can walk up to them, but definitely even if you walk up to them, you still need to send an email to say the UAT is scheduling for so date, this time, and in the location, the meeting room. You have to, you have to you are responsible for to get the location, like the venue, maybe the meeting room where it's going to take place, the people that you need to invite for the UAT. You are responsible as well to make sure, and the timing. So that is why I will advise that anytime you know that your UAT is coming up, it's better you maybe, to give them like maybe 2 weeks notice if possible, because they may have other important things that they need to do, as well. And because it is mandatory that they carry out this UAT. So you cannot do it without the stakeholders. So for you not to for you not to have a delay in your delivery, the project delivery. So that's why they will say, oh, the BA contacted the stakeholders, are they ready for the UAT? Because if one of your stakeholders said they are not ready, they are not available, there's nothing you can do, because there's nobody that will sign it off. So that is why you have to make sure you schedule the UAT sessions, you contact them, you make sure everything is ready, even with the technical team. You have to let them that, okay, this is the time. And sometimes I've worked on a project in the past whereby the tester or the technical team, they contact me and say, Habi, we want to have the UAT on so date. Could you please contact the stakeholders and let us know whether they're available? So I need to work with those days and say, okay, we have a UAT, the technical team said the solution is ready, and are we available for UAT? And they may decline this, saying I'm not available, but you just need to make sure all your stakeholders, they're available for for the UAT. And so BA is responsible for scheduling the UAT session with stakeholder, because you are the one that is representing the customer. So, and you have to feed back to the customer to say to your stakeholder, which are your customers, saying, oh, the product is ready, I want you to come and test it. And so sometimes the documentation of test cases is optional, because it's not really a core BA work, because this is actually has to do with the software testers, the QA. But I've worked on on projects that they asked me to write it, to document the test cases. And in that scenario, what happened was that I documented the test cases that I know that I want to cover, because I have a bit of idea of how to write the test cases. But if you don't know it, to be honest, it's not something, it's not a mandatory that you have to do. They will not force you to do it, but at least it will just give you a bit of an edge if you know it anyway. But it's not like a core BA thing that you have to do. So what happened was that the technical team, the tester from the other side, from the supplier, they sent me their test cases to say, these are the things that we are going to, or that we are going to test, the scenarios. Then what my project manager asked me to do is to compare, is there anything that is missing that they did not cover? So what they did was that I reviewed it. There were some gaps, because I actually documented the requirements, and I know what my stakeholder actually wants, and I know what we are going to test. So I was able to review and say, oh, could you so I compared the notes, and I said, okay, and I sent them my own test cases to say, these scenarios is actually have identified some gaps, within their own test cases, and so they can use mine to make sure some of the things that I've covered in my own test cases documentation it's also complements with what they've documented as well. So they were able to get take some of the test cases from mine, and also included it in their own. So for example, assuming that they gave me about 30 and I documented them about 15, and from there they were able to have maybe like 38 at the end of the day, because most of the things that have been covered in their own, just only the gaps one that they actually documented. And yes, so, and that actually helped, because the BA, what you are going to test, what your customer wants, and the testers, where they must have documented something, and if they miss anything, you can actually tell them, so it will save time as well during the UAT. So that's why I said it's optional, but not all projects that you have to do that is optional. Even with your test cases, that's not what they're going to use for the UAT. It's just that sometimes if they send it to you, you can easily, it's good if you understand this, what they've written down. And so, the reviewing of the test cases as well is optional. Sometimes you may not even come across this, but I've come across, some of this task. So that's why I've included it here. So sometimes they may send the test cases to you, the supplier may send it to you. So you just review to actually see if there's any gap in there. Maybe they've covered everything that you want to test, or maybe there are some things that is missing, or everything is fine, and you just feed back to them. And now, so during the UAT session, you are responsible to facilitate it. You are the one that needs to, you can do the introduction to say, we have our engineer here or our technical team that have actually done this, and you have your stakeholders, and you can be checking, your requirements and your user stories and the acceptance criteria that you've documented, because the acceptance criteria that we documented last week, that is what you are going to use, to mark, to do as a checklist. That's why we said last week that the acceptance criteria is a checklist of some of those things that needs to be met. There are some conditions that need to be met in the solution. So your acceptance, so because your stakeholders, they will come with the acceptance checklist, because that's what they will. So they will, as the technical team, as they are doing the demo during the UAT, so they may just be ticking in, the checklist to see if that has been met, during it depends on the demo. Or they may just say, can you demonstrate how I'm going to be able to authorize the clients? So they will expect, the whoever that is doing the demo to actually demonstrate how they can authorize a client. So then if that's passed, then they will do pass. If it fails, and they can ask questions, from the technical person, whoever that is doing the demo, the stakeholder can ask them questions to say, will I do this? Depending on what they want to do, but the acceptance criteria, that's what would stand as their checklist. So you are just there to make sure what has passed, what has failed, you noted it down, and you are able to follow up. So once the acceptance, so it's more or less like your session as well. It's just that, so if the stakeholder said, oh, we are not happy with this, you need to make sure you take note of what's the comments, and you follow it up with this technical team to make sure that is being done. Assuming that out of 10 checklists or acceptance criteria we've documented, only 6 passed, and we have maybe 4 that failed. So that means those 4, you need to note it. Then you will liaise with the technical team to say, okay, how are you going to do this? When is it going to be rectified? When can we do the testing again? And they can tell you, Happy, we are going to do it in another 3 days, and I will send you an email once that is being confirmed, so that we can rearrange for another UAT session. I assume that all the 10 acceptance criteria pass. Yeah. So what you will just do as a BA after the session, then you just send an email to the stakeholder and say, since after that we've completed the UAT and you are happy with the session, with the solution, could you please provide your sign off, because you need to get the UAT sign off as well. I know you have your documentation, you have the sign off, but the UAT needs to be signed off as well. If they don't sign it off, they may say, oh, I have one query, this thing is still, maybe they still have something that is pending, they have to resolve it, but you are responsible to get that sign off from the stakeholder as well. So because that is when you will know that you've completed your task, your customer, which are your stakeholders, they're happy with what you've delivered, and yes, and that is good day for them. Yeah. And so that's why I say you have to obtain sorry, that is supposed to be N, sign off. You have to obtain sign off, SIGN, sorry, sign off on UAT from your stakeholders. So, and that's your job done. Once you get your sign off from them, and that is that. And so, like I said, use the UAT will either result in pass or fail. It's either that testing pass or it failed. So you can do it because, so you can't really say, oh, everything failed, because if you have like 10, and so it could be because you have to check it like one by one. So 5 could pass and 5 could fail. So they just have to work on the remaining 5 that you have outstanding. And that is like end to end of your tasks as a BA. And once you've done that, yeah, that means your project, you've delivered successfully on that project, and they can move you to another project. And yes, so I think we've covered end to end. But there are some few things that I just need to cover, because just for like added value, let me just say added value, you understand? Because if you know it, it will be good as well, because it will be useful for you during the journey as a business analyst. I know most of you must have maybe come across this software development lifecycle, because you need to understand the process of the software development lifecycle as a business analyst. You need to understand that. As we know that in the during the requirement, for you to be able to develop any software, you need to gather the requirement. You need to carry out the analysis work. You need to make sure you analyze the requirement the business needs, then you document the requirements. Is when you finish doing that, then maybe you send that to the supplier or the technical team. They have to do the design. They have to design the solution, because they need your requirements to be able to design the solution, how it's going to work. Maybe hardware requirements, maybe some software requirement, maybe some it could be anything that they are going to use, that they will need for that solution. So some people are responsible for that, to design that solution based on the requirements on what you said you want. And once that is being done, if it has to do with coding, then they have to send it to the developers to start development. So to build the solution for you. So this is development, is more or less like the building. And once that is being done, then the testing needs to come into place, because in the development, the developers will be working in development environment. We call it development environment. And once that is being completed, they will have to send it to the tester, the QA, to test the solution, to make sure all the criteria, the acceptance criteria, all the scenarios that they've documented, actually, everything passed. So they will be doing that in the testing environment. So to make sure they test the solution before they invite me as a BA and my stakeholders to come and do the UAT. So they have to make sure they test it on their own before they invite me, to come over for the UAT session. Then, if everything, like assume that when we, during our UAT, we've carried out the UAT and everything is fine. So what we just need to do is to say, okay, we are happy for them to, to deploy the solution, to, to move it into production, to, to let it go live. You understand? So that's the, the deployment. So sometimes they say implementation, to implement it into the, live environments. And then you have the maintenance. I know. So you just need to understand the process of, the software development life cycle. Just in case if you find yourself in any of these projects, you will be able to, know what you need to do. And yes, so that is the only reason why I'm covering it. Yes. And we have some type of methodologies that you need to understand as well. We have what we call waterfall model. Like if you, I know in long time ago, most of the, let's say most of the project I used to work on usually waterfall. And when we say waterfall model, that is when you have to finish the requirement, all the requirement for the project, you know before you can move into the the design phase. I have to finish everything. Assuming that we want to build a website, let's say we want to build a website for Tesco. So that means assume that Tesco does not have any website at the moment, or we have a new food retailer that wants to build a website. Maybe they are new in town and they just want to build a website. So if you're doing a waterfall, so that means we have to gather all of the requirements about the website, everything, before I can I can send that document, to design team, before they can now design it. Once the design team finish their homework on all the requirements, then before they will now pass it on to the developers that will now start building the website, is when the developer finish their work, that they will not send that to hand over to, to the tester to test the solution. It's like you won't have to finish, one task, one stage before they can move to the next stage. So, but we still have some projects these days that they still use waterfall. You understand? Some projects they still use waterfall. Most times if you have like large projects, sometimes they do use waterfall as well. But that is if they have a clear expectation. They know that nothing is going to change, and they don't have any pressure on their return on investment. They don't expecting to get any return on that solution. So the organization may decide to use waterfall methodologies or model. And most times, definitely as a BA, you don't have to determine the methodologies. Your project manager or your program manager or your project office we actually decide on the methodology that you're going to use for the project. So it is not a BA call, to decide the methodology that you need to use for the projects. But you just need to understand what how the methodologies works. So it's like you work from the top to bottom, and you have a clear time schedule, and the resources, the clear resources are how many people you are going to use, what budgets that you have for the project. But the problem is that, or the cause is that, it is not flexible. It is difficult, and that's why a lot of organizations they are not using that at the moment. Because assume that I've gathered in my requirements as a BA, the designing team they've started, and the developer they've even finished their tags, and they've passed it on to hands off to developers, and the developers started coding. Maybe they now realize that, oh, we have a requirement. It's not supposed to be A, it's supposed to be C. So that means the developer have to start that or stop that work, and the requirement, the BA needs to document that again. So that means the designer people need to rework again. So it is not cost effective, and it is not flexible. So that's why a lot of organizations they are not using it, and they are not depending on their project. They will prefer to use another methodology. And that means, assuming that is a 6 month project, so that means they have to wait till end of 6 months before they can actually get a return. They can start getting proceed on that solution. So that's another downside of it as well. So but it's just for you to understand it. So how it works, so that because the BA needs to finish the requirement gathering, then the designing team needs to finish designing the solution to meet the requirements. Then the development needs to finish the coding as well, before the tester can start doing their work as well, before they can now deploy it. So there are so many cons. So you can read about it as well. It's just for you to understand, so that in case if you come across such projects as well, and they may even ask you in an interview as well. So just need to have that understanding. And we have agile model as well. And so agile is another methodology which a lot of organization uses at the moment. And so you have different things. We have Scrum, and there is another one, Scaled Agile Framework. So Scrum is a framework within Agile methodology as well. And you have Scale Save as well, because sometimes if you go on job save and you're searching for jobs, there are some of these keywords like save. They may say, oh, they want somebody experienced in save. So I'm not going to cover it, but you can read up on it just in case if you come across it, and or if they ask you in an interview that, do you know or have you ever used framework before, or do you understand what framework is or save is, you understand? So that you'll be able to explain it, you'll be able to respond to the question, and it's good to have the understanding of it anyway. And we have another one which is rad. Definitely I've come across this a lot of time, so you can read up on that as well. That's another framework as well. And incremental as well, you have that in a BA textbook. You can read up on that. You have V model. Yeah, so you have V model. So you have a lot of different framework that they do apply in different projects. So you just need to make sure you understand it. At least just have a basic understanding of what it's all about, so that just in case if they ask a question on it. So, but I'm going to talk about on the agile, because I know a lot of organizations they use agile methodology. So I'm going to talk on that. And as a BA, you need to understand it as well, because you something that you need to know. You need to know. So there are some terminologies that that you have in agile methodologies that you need to know as well. We have product backlog, so it's more or less like a list of requirements, features, stories that the business wants. I'm going to show you a project management tool that we're going to use, and we have sprint backlog. So sprint backlog is like a sub level, is part of the product backlog, because for your product, you can have several sprints. So you have a sprint backlog as well. So the sprint backlog is just about, the list of things that you need to do complete in that sprint, and is a subset of the product backlog. There are committed features that you need to do in that sprint, and your sprint backlog needs to be completed within that sprint. So it will have a deadline. So yeah, so but I will show you that. So, and you have Scrum Master, Product Owner, Sprint. All these terminologies is within Agile methodology. So that's why you need to. So Agile methodology, not Agile methodology. I've just realized that mistake. Agile methodology. Anyway, so we have Scrum team members and size. So in your Scrum team, you have your Scrum Master. So we don't use project manager like role, in Agile. So we have Scrum Master, and we have product owner. We have product owners. We have so the Scrum Master is the person that facilitates, the sprints, and the team as well, the Scrum team. So the person will help you. The Scrum Master will help to remove any roadblock. Hey, if you have any problem with that you cannot proceed with your tasks, the Scrum Master is responsible to help you remove that roadblock. The Scrum Master is responsible to set up all the the Scrum meetings and setting time frame as well. So sometimes they call them slave master. They call them slave master sometimes, because they have to work for you. They have to make sure the Scrum team, everything is being delivered or is working according to the timeline. So, and you have product owner. The product owner is the person that is responsible, for the return on investment. The person is the person that is taking the interest of the stakeholder at heart. Is the person that will manage the roadmap. This product owner will be the one to dictate what this team needs to do. It will prioritize it, not really what the person will be we because you may have like a list of 50 requirements. So the Scrum Master will say, this one is the most priority, number one, number two, number three. So is the product owner, is the product owner that is responsible to prioritize, the backlog. So is this product owner that is responsible to, to prioritize that, what needs to be delivered, because the product owner knows what the stakeholder wants, what they need to deliver, maybe in the first phase or the first sprint. So then the person will be able to say, oh, this first 10 things, I want it to be at least be maybe what you can deliver maybe within the next two sprints. So then the development or the developer, they can now say, okay, this is what we'll be able to do. We can only do 1 to 4. So anyway, so that is what that you have the development team. So the development team as well. So BA is also part of the the development. You can say development team, because so how it works as a BA, if you are assigned to such projects using Agile. So that means in sprint one, you have what you need, the requirements that you need to gather, for that sprint one. So once you gather the requirement from sprint one, you will hand off, to the development team. So they will start coding on it. So by the time they are start coding on your requirements one, you're already working on requirement two. So that means you are always ahead of them, because the developer will work on what you are going to give to them. Then, without you giving them requirements, they cannot build anything. So that's why most times you are always ahead of them, like one, stage ahead of them. So if you give them requirements one, then you start working on requirement two. They start working on requirements, they start developing the requirements one. So you just need to understand, because then, because there are some things they may say, maybe you are working on a project like a data project. Let me say you have to gather the requirement from finance, maybe that's your sprint one. Maybe the sprint two is to gather the requirement from technical team, like that. So that's how it's, or you work in Agile as well. And you may have, so your testers as well, they're part of the development team as well. So because once the developers finish, so they have to, start testing as well. And most times, the size of the team is, so you don't have a project manager in this, we don't use project manager title here. And your designer as well, if they're part of the project, so they could be part of the development team as well. And sometimes it's usually maybe like 5 to 9, 5 people to 9 people. Imagine you have scrum master, you have product owner, you have two developers, you have one tester, you have one BA, and you have one designer. So that's even 7. So that is how that works. And so sprint is like a cycle. So sometimes some sprints, some organization, they could be doing like 2-week sprints, they could be doing 1-week sprints, they could be doing 4-week sprint, but maximum of 30 days. So you just need to understand, all these terminologies. You need to understand it, that you work in a sprint. And yes, you just need to understand that when you gather the requirement, you answer off, and that is that on sprints. And duration of the sprints, I've mentioned that earlier. I've mentioned that. So 1 week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks, but it has to be maximum of 30 weeks. So that 30 days. So sorry. So that means you're saying all the things that you commit to within the sprints, then it has to be completed within that by the end of that sprint. So we have Scrum meetings or ceremonies. They may say Agile ceremonies. They may say Scrum ceremonies. So what are the Scrum ceremonies, which we'll discuss? So we have. So these are Scrum ceremonies or events. So you need to know this as well. Sprint planning. This is like is a meeting that they would do before they begin a sprint. So they will be able to say, oh, these are the things that we want to commit to. I think they do something like a points. Some people use points. Is the developer. It's not really your own. You don't need to understand. How they're going to say their velocity. You don't really need to understand that, to be honest. You just need to understand. How the sprint what is about planning for the sprint, the next sprint. You understand? So they may say, okay, next sprint, Happy, you need to start gathering requirements from the technical team, or you need to start gathering requirements from HR team. So then they will be working on the previous requirement that you worked on. So that's the sprint. So the sprint could be, so they usually do that before the commencement of the sprints. Daily scrum meeting, or they may say daily stand up. So this is where, because as a BA, if you're part of the Agile, the scrum team, you will participate in the daily stand up as well. Because this is where you say, oh, like what I usually do, like I'm talking as a BA now, because your sprint daily stand up is about saying what you did yesterday, what you are doing today, and if there's any roadblock, any impediments. So as a BA, assuming that I'm part of a scrum team and I want to give report, I can say yesterday I gathered the requirements from the facility, from the HR team, and today I'm meeting with the HR administrator to gather the remaining requirements. Or I can even say, and I will be documenting during the process flow as well. And I don't have any roadblock, I don't have any issue, I don't have any impediments. So it could be something that you will say within 30 seconds, or just 1 minute. So because everyone, the developer, the tester, needs to give accounts, of what they did yesterday, previous day, and what they're going to do today, and if there's any problem. So if there's any problem, you will raise it there, and the scrum master will note it, and we start to make sure to unblock that, to help you remove that blocker. So that is it. So as a BA, you just need to understand that, because they may ask you. You understand? If you have you ever worked in agile, in any agile team, so you'll be able to say, oh yes. So it's usually 15 minutes. Anything more than 15-30 minutes, to be honest, that's not a daily stand-up. It's that's done to normal project team meeting. You understand? So it's usually 15 minutes. You just need to understand that. Sprint review, what I did is, because I will tell you from my own experience, during our sprint review, because I was working on a data project, which whereby we have to, do some management reporting. So during my sprint review, what we did was, because that has to be like towards the end of that sprint. So I usually have that like because I think I was working on a 2 weeks sprint, and like the second Thursday, what I usually do is I will make sure before then I will invite my stakeholders, to a room for show and tell. The show and tell is to tell them, to demo what you have done as a Scrum team, what we have done during that sprint. So we do the demo to say we have developed this report, and we'll show them how it works. And so it's an opportunity for them. It's like a showcase of the work that you have done during the sprints, maybe the last 10 days. Then if they have any comments, they can provide some comments. They can say, oh, I don't want that color. Can you move this column to the left-hand side? Or can you move it from left-hand side to right-hand side? So it's an opportunity for them to review it, to give us feedback. If they want us to do any amendment, we can do it before the end of that sprint. And if they're happy with it, then we are just ready to do the UAT and just push it to live environments. So that is sprints. That is what I participated, in my one of my last projects. Yeah, for the sprint review. It's just to review, what they've done, during the sprints that is just ending. And they have another one. They usually do sprint retrospective, whereby they discuss about the lesson learned, what they need to do better in the coming sprints, maybe from the previous sprints. It could be maybe the first one or the second one. They may say, oh, we need to make sure we put this. Maybe we communicate with the stakeholder like 4 days before the show and tell. It could be anything. So it's more or less like a lesson learned as well. And and I think that's all on that. So what you just need to know is that the product owner, they are the one that prioritize the requirements, the product backlog. And the agile is very good because it's flexible. Because you are doing the work in chunks, like in bits. You understand? So if there's any problem, you can easily, the cost it will not be too cost effective, compared to waterfall. You can easily rework, on a small piece of work, rather than, doing everything after 6 months and after everything is wrong. So, within 2 weeks, if everything is wrong, you can easily correct it. So it's very flexible. And if there's any requirement changes, they can easily tell you that, oh, requirement that you gathered last week, sorry, something has changed. Probably, maybe they've not even implemented it. So that will really good. And then also, but the one thing about the negative impact that I can really say is that if one of the developers leaves the organization, definitely it will have impact on that project. Before that means they have to get somebody to come and replace the person, before they can recruit. It may have impact on that project delivery. So your sprints they can have like several sprints, within, for just to build a website, they can have like 10 sprints. So probably maybe it's going to take them 20 weeks if it's a 2 week sprint. So that means it's going to take them 20 weeks. That means about 5 months, right? So I think that's all. You just need to have, understanding about what is all about, just in case. And there's something about burn down chart as well that will show you, like, the progress of work as well. But I will show you something similar that you can understand. Yes, so the project collaboration too. I don't know if you ever come across Jira. So you can use that to manage the projects, and for the team to be able to collaborate together, to be able to say, okay, this is what you'll be able to see what the developer is working on, what the BA is doing, what they are testing at the moment. And yes, it's just to be able to see the track as well. So it's really good for visibility of the progress of the project. And we have another one, Confluence. So some organizations use Confluence as well. Some use Jira. Another one is Azure DevOps. This is Microsoft one. Jira, I think that is Atlantis also. So Azure DevOps is Microsoft product collaboration too. So that's the one we are going to check very soon. And yes, so the Azure DevOps. So I will just change to that one now. Um, So this is the Azure DevOps. So you can see, so you don't have to worry about setting it up. Your Scrum Master will set this up. So you don't have to worry about this setting it up. You just need to understand in case you find yourself in any organization, in an organization that they are using Azure DevOps. You need to maneuver your way around it. So, but it's something you can check on YouTube as well. You have that on YouTube, and even on Microsoft sites, you can easily learn that. So I've created this, for I think past trainings. So this is a project team. This is a project team. They are working on learning management system projects. So this is the team. So although I think I'm the only one, I can easily invite my project team member here. And yes, this is about the project. Usually is like a description, but we'll just quickly go straight to what we need to do. Here, if you want to create, and one thing is that on this platform, on the product backlog, I will show you. So this is the dashboard. I'm not going to go into that. This is our board. So our board, I can easily show the sprints, the bulk and the work item. Work items are like the user stories, the epic, the features, the teams as well. You can have that. So let me check this backlog. Okay, so you can see here, these are all the backlogs that we've created here. If I expand this, I've created a user story. This is a user story. And because the reason why it's showing only the feature, because this is a feature, because here is showing only features. If I select here and I select Epic, so I don't think we have any Epic. Okay, we have Epic. So this is showing me all the epics that we have in the backlog. So, like last week, we discussed about the epics being like I think the second one on the hierarchy. Then underneath you have features, then you have user stories. So if you check here, you see you have features. So this is the hierarchy. So you have your epic, then you have your features. So if I expand this, you see we have user story there. We have our user story. And if I expand this, we have our task. Yes, we have our task. So that is the hierarchy. You have epic, feature, user story, and task. And that was what we learned last week. And the tags, you don't have to create the tags because the developer needs to deal with all those tags. You are just responsible for your epic and maybe your features and the or maybe the user story. So now, but because I selected here just epic, so that's why it's just showing like like the high level epic. If I want to, so in case you find yourself and you're wondering where are my user stories, all you just need to do is to check. And it's similar to Jira as well. At least once you understand it, you'll be able to maneuver your way, when you find yourself using Jira as well. So if I check the backlog items here, so this becomes the way the Azure DevOps is set up, I think you have basic, Scrum, and Agile. So in another one that I'm going to show you, you can see we are using, this one is showing backlog item, but in another one is another, maybe basic or the Scrum is showing, is going to show user story. But you just need to understand, how it works. So here, if I see, so it's showing me here. So this is all the user stories that or backlog item. Let me just use the terminology in this one. Backlog item in this in the product backlog. So that is why you can see product backlog here. And if I want to add a new user story, assuming that you've written your requirement and I say, oh, we have a new requirement, can you please maybe you've just gathered requirement from HR team, and the developer said you have to input the requirements on Azure DevOps. You just need to come here, select your new work item. So you can see here, put a backlog item. You can, yes, if it's going to be bug, yes. So, but I'm not raising bugs. So you can select where do you want it to be. Let's see. Let's try and see. Testing, training. Okay, team training. Is it team training? Okay. Yeah. So team training. Oh, where did I search? Oh, I was searching something else. Sorry. Sorry, let me switch on the. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So let me say work item. I can easily add here. Let me just say add here. New work item. You can easily add here. You can add there. You can add at the other side where I just left from. So if you want to add epic, you can add a happy. You can add feature product backlog item, which is the same thing as user story in another screen. And we have task. Assuming I want to do this product backlog item, I click on that. Okay. So it must have a title. Let's say we want to say login. Login or contact. Oh, I think I've got contact us. We can say payments page. So now is a new one. So if I want to, depending on the status, because as you are creating it, because it's new, so it's going to be like that. And yes, so if you want to description, so you can write your requirements now here saying the product, this solution must have must have a payments page with paper paper gateway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what I can do here, my user stories as well, I can say as a customer, I want to pay with paper so that I can um, proceed to checkout or proceed to, let's say, proceed to delivery. Yeah, I just made that up. Yeah, so that's my user story. So you write your requirements and your user stories in the description. Then the acceptance criteria. You remember last week we discussed about on the acceptance criteria. Then we can go on, like say, giving I'm a customer. I'm not going to finish. I'm not going to complete this. So, but you can write there, giving I'm a customer when then, you understand. So you can just finish it up. And what you can do as well, depending if you have to link it to another thing, you can do that there. And if you can attach as well here. You can see this is history. So if you click on this, you see whoever that's worked on it, who created it, and if it has been assigned to anyone. If you want to also link it here, you can attach a document. If you have like your business requirement documents or maybe like a process flow or use case, you can use this to attach it as well to this user story. You can use that as well. So you can play around it. You can sign up for this free on Microsoft website. So then the discussion, assuming that I want to maybe add the notes, I can say add, somebody. Yeah. So, but depending on your team, depending on the whoever that you want to assign this to, but the person has to be on your project team and needs to be on this Azure DevOps platform as well, within. And so that's that. And I can save and close payments page. So if we check so let's go to our board now and check board. Okay, yeah, you can see this is what we've just created today, and it's new. You can see here is new, and so this our our product backlog here, and all our work item. So if I go to backlog here, so this is my product backlog. So this all my, you can see here, so this is all my product backlog here. And if I go to my sprint backlog that we discussed last time, sorry, something I need to check. So on the product backlog here, if you check, see this right hand side, you can see I created sprint 3, sprint 2, sprint 4, sprint 5, because you may have so many sprints in this. And what I've done is that for this sprint 3, we are going to complete it on the 19th. We started on the 6th, and we are going to, so it's 10 working days. So So because they may say, oh, Habi, could you please assign the HR requirement to sprint 3 or sprint 4? So you need to know how you are going to assign that. And so you can see in sprint 5, they are going to be working on, they have one user story and 2 tasks already. So let's click on the sprints. So on the sprint here, so which sprint is sprint 3? Yeah, so here you have sprint 3. So this is my sprint board, and if I click on this, so this would be my sprint backlog that I mentioned earlier. So in this backlog, this is what the developer have committed to that they're going to work on in this sprint 3. So, and what they can do, they can create, is still new. So what they can move it, so that's for the developer. So depending, so if I select, let's say sprint 1, let's see what is in sprint 1. So you can easily play around it. So these are all the things. So you can see here, you can see the states, the product, so they know that they've completed, the bug, they've resolved that, and the personal details, they've finished working on that. So that is your sprint backlog. So you can see product backlog, the sprint backlog, and I think there's another thing that I want to show you. Okay, let me go to the board. So let's go to the board. So you can see here, so this is the board. So you can see these are the new items, and there's some, so they can customize it depending on the project team that you are working with. They can easily customize this. They can have requirement gathering here. I can even rename this and say this is requirement gathering, this is development doing, or they can have requirement starting, or the backlog for the requirement, the one that I'm working on as well. And you can have like 6 columns here, but is not your own task to do that. So but that means the developer have started working on this. This is what they have started working on, and these are the user story or the features that you have at the moment. So they can easily change this as well. They can easily change that to in progress. If I change this to in progress, it will move. So yeah, I can see. So it's now they've started working on this, and what they do is that they try to create tasks there, but it's not business analyst work to be creating tasks. All you just need to do is to to add user stories, add your features, add your requirement, and it's not just only BA that needs to be adding the requirements. Anyone within the team, it depends on how the project team wants it to work. It could be they may say, oh, it's only the product owner that needs to input all the requirements, or only the BA needs to be inputting all the requirements in the product backlog, because that's where it's going to go first. So it could be they may say anyone, be it the stakeholder, be it developers, because the developer may have conversation with stakeholder, and they may say, oh, we are going to need it, and the developer just add it. And it could be the BA, it could be the Scrum Master. So it's not just BA that needs to do that. So all they'll just do, everything will just be in the product backlog. So all the things that are going to work on. And that's just about it. I think the analytics is the burn down chart. I think I saw that earlier. Let me see. Another one. Okay, view. Okay, let me see this one. It was going. So that's that. So I know there is another one burn down that you can see. I saw it earlier. Anyway, so let's go to. I want to show you another one. This is learning management system. Let's see the website. I think we have something on the website. If yeah. Although you just, this is not like Kobe, but you just need to understand it. So that's why I'm just showing you, just in case if you find yourself. Okay, so you could, so if you check here, so let me go to the board. Okay, yeah, you could see here, the one I showed you earlier, there was nothing like issues. So you can have issues here. And if I click on this new work item, you can see we have epic and task and issue. And the issue is more or less like the user story in this one. I'm not sure if this one is the basic one or the Scrum and Agile. There are 3 types of board that you can have. And this is what they call Kanban board. If they say, oh, could you check the Kanban board? So this is what you call the Kanban board. So that's your Kanban board. And yes, I think that's also, I think there's another one that it has bug. And so I think is the third one, but I don't really, I don't want to go through all this stuff. Yeah, so that's it on the Azure DevOps. You can see, yeah, that's it on the Azure DevOps. And you can easily assign it to sprints as well. I'm sure once you find yourself in this, you'll be able to maneuver your way around that. And yeah, let's go back to to our stuff. So once you finish your documentation and the project has been implemented, it has been developed, they've done the testing, and they're not using it. Sometimes, if you're still in the organization, they may ask you to carry out, the benefits realization. So what they mean is, to know, because before the inception of the project, they would have done like business case to say these are the benefits that we're going to. Maybe it's going to save about 60 hours of our HR manager, is going to help us. All those benefits or the advantages or the benefit they've indicated on the business case. So they may now want to see if they've actually realized the benefits. So they may ask you to carry out this process, what they need to do. For example, if I'm using like a project, let's say like a management information reporting project. So what I can do is I can create a questionnaire to ask them or their name, their role, how long does it take them to use the old report, let's say the Excel, and how long does it take them, to do the reporting using the new solution, the new technology. But one thing is that you cannot carry out post project just within 1 week of delivery, because you will not be able to get a good result. Sometimes they allow like 6 months. It could be 1 month after usage. You understand? After they start using the new solution, it could be 1 month, at least minimum of 1 month, and it could be 6 months. They just want to see, the impact that is, the benefit that they've realized. So from there, they will not carry out. So they may ask them the question, how many hours is taking the duration of the previous solution and the duration that is taking them now. So they cannot calculate it in monetary value. So at the end of the day, somebody may say, oh, I usually use this report, let's say 3 times a day. And it usually take me 2 hours a week. So that means it's let's say 3 times a week. So now I'm using, and it usually take them 2 hours or any day they use it. So that means they usually spend like 6 hours, weekly on that report using the old solution. Now that they have the new solution, the person can say, now it takes me just 30 minutes. So that means 30 minutes times 3 times that they use in a week, that is just 1.5. So you can easily compare that 6 hours compared to 1.5 in the new solution. That is a great, massive saving of hours. So what they will now do is that they can now multiply that with the number of their hours. You understand? Like their, maybe per hour, maybe they usually is 20 pounds. Let's say, it could be even maybe 250 per day. So 250 per day multiplied by 3 days a week, that is 750 weekly. So that means the HR administrator is they are saving 750 pounds weekly on the HR administrator. You understand? So that means, sorry, so that means on the 750, so that means the person is using on 750 and is just so that means usually, so 350, 250 multiplied by 3 days. Previously, they usually do 750. So that's 750 weekly. Now that means 30 minutes, 3 days. So that means they have to prorate that, maybe to 30 minutes or 1 hour before they can go there. So they can now deduct it. You understand? Let's say, assume that the new one is just 150 pounds and the old one is just 600 or 750 pounds. So that means they're saving about 750 to 150. That's 600. Yeah, 600 a week. So they can multiply that over 6 months. You understand? That's really massive saving. So that is like a justification to say, yes, this solution is very good. We are realizing the benefit. So like that, depending on the number of rows, but it's usually like a big thing as well. So that is just, and that is all on the post projects. Yeah, so I will just use some scenario just to run this up. So assuming James was assigned as a business analyst to a data program using Agile methodology, how are you going to approach it? So that means maybe your business or the BA manager said, oh, James, you have to work on this project. This is the project manager you can contact. That means that is it. You have to take it off from there. you contact the project manager or whoever that is going to be responsible, if it's a scrum master or the product owner. You have to contact, say, I'm the BA on this project. So when they usually have your meeting, then they will brief you on the project. They will tell you what are the things that they want to do, and they will tell you the time of their daily stand-up, where the seats and all those things, and you just start gathering your requirement from there. So they may tell you we have 7 epics. So they may say their epics is 7 areas. So you have to start with finance first. So that is the first one we need to do, and we are going to do finance between sprint 1 and sprint 2. Then gather your requirement within that 2 weeks. You have to gather your requirements. You have to do, if there's any process flow and anything use case diagram involved, you have to do it within that 2 weeks. You get to sign up within that 2 weeks. If it's a 2 week sprint, yeah. So you get a sign up within 2 weeks, and you make sure that at the end of that sprint, you have that ready for the developers to start working on. You'll pick up the other one as well. So that is what you do. You do it in chunks. So you take another one again, you start working on it. So another epic that you are meant to do, you do it again, and you still do your all within that 2 weeks as well. You may still be involved in the previous one that you've documented, the show and tell, the sprint review, all those things you may still be involved as well. So that is how Agile. Well, you just need to apply what we described earlier. You just need to apply it here, and I'm assuming that you have another. Rose will be joining Cyber project team as a business analyst. In this case, it could be waterfall methodology, but you will know anyway. They will let you know. They will tell you whether they are doing agile or the way they will explain to you. You will know, even if they don't say we are using agile. You will know whether they are using agile or method or waterfall. All you just need to do, meet the project manager if they use waterfall. Where do they sit? Yeah, where do they sit? Where do they sit? And the documentation, your stakeholders, identify them, start gathering requirements, your documentation. You can do peer review. You will see the project timeline as well. But that's because that will help you to plan your work as well, to know when your deliverables are expected from you. So that is that on that. So you could be working on waterfall or agile and some other methodologies that I explained earlier, but you will be able to do that. And there are some other documents that they may expect you to produce as well, like requirement traceability matrix. Not all projects that you we require that. Most time, not all projects that we like. Even with, like, if you're working on, let's say, management information reporting like a reporting project, you may not you may not need to document process flow, because they are not, it's not about their processes. They are just concerned about the reporting that they're getting out from the system, the visualization. They want it in pie chart. They want to be get reports about the financial year for the last 5 years. They want to be getting weekly reports on the expenses. You understand? So it may not have anything to do with processes, and you may not need to document processes. I've worked on various projects that, like such project like that I did not have to document any process map. So you will know whether it's require process map or use case diagram, or just you have your user stories. But regardless, you still have your requirements, your user stories, and your acceptance as well, criteria, and your UAC. But sometimes you may not actually use process flow and all those use case diagrams sometimes. And so there are so many documents. They may say business impact analysis, you have to do it. They may say target operating model, you have to document it. And requirement traceability is about the objectives or the vision of the organization, or the project vision, the requirements that you've documented, how that relates to the user stories, how that relates to the testing that they've done. All those things is just to be able to trace that the requirement has actually been met. But how did you meet that requirement? Is it by developing a business process, or by developing a new feature in the solution, or depending? So there are some other documentation that they may require of you that you need to document. But everything is something that is doable. You can still do it. So you just need to, once you just know the process of how you need to, of the life cycle of a business analyst, yeah, I think yes, everything should be. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's the, yeah, last one. Yeah, and thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the session so far. Yeah, any question, then I can take that from now. Yeah, trying to get back. So do you keep a record of of all the versions? Yes, you keep a record of all the version, because as you are changing it or you are getting comment from the stakeholder, you need to make sure you update it. For example, if I'm working on a 0.1 and I send it to my BA manager and I send it to my stakeholder as well, my BA manager provided me maybe with comments. I've updated it, is now 0.2. Now that is 0.2, my stakeholders need to know that there's my BA manager provided me a comment to update something. That's why it's 0.2. So you keep track of your changes as well on the first page of your document. So depending on the template that they are having in the organization, you understand that you work, but definitely you need to have your audit history and your version control as well. So anytime you update it, not you updated that within your own documentation, no, but maybe when you send it to the stakeholder, or maybe your project or your BA manager make reference to something, usually the stakeholder, you need to make sure uh you change it. The only time that I would say if the BA manager make comments on it is if somebody else have another version on it, fine. Then you need to make sure you let them know. But if it's still within what you are doing, they just say, "Oh, Habi, can you make sure you align that, align the section 3?" Definitely, I do need to put that there because it's still I've not shared that with any other person. But my BA manager is just doing like a QA thing on it just before I send it to the stakeholder, because the reputation of the BA needs to be protected. So that's why my BA manager needs to make sure the QA, everything is okay, the grammatical, punctuation, everything is fine. Yes. So that's it. So you need to keep a record of the version, because they may ask you, can we say version 0.2? And like I said, I think mentioned in maybe the second session that we had, because once that is being signed off, that is baseline. We call it baseline, and that document will change to 1.0. So if the stakeholder now make any changes or give you a new requirement after 1.0, then it will be 1.1 again. You start that again, update it till you get approval on it again. The second approval will be 2.0, like that, like that, like that. So that's that. Do you have an exam jump on for BA? They've changed the I think the one that was on for about 5 or 6 years has been change. I think that had been changed sometimes last year. So I don't have for the new one. I'm so sorry about that. I don't have for the new one. But what I can do is that, with all these things, if you listen to the explanation what I've given and you read the BCS textbook, definitely I know you can do it, because with the BCS textbook, all the questions that they're going to, give or bring out the in the exam stuff, is still going to be from the textbook. But once you have an understanding of all those things, it will be easy, or easy for you to relate it to the textbook as well. So yeah, you can still, once you read the textbook and listen to the all this stuff, you can pass that. Yeah, you can, pass the exam. Must all stakeholder, must all the stakeholder attend the UAT? I know sometimes you can have the UAT batch by batch, depending on their area. For example, if you're doing a UAT for a big system and maybe they have a finance section parts that they don't use all the functionalities within the system. They have something that relates to finance. They have something that relates to HR. You can do it in batches. You can just do demo UAT just for for finance. But once the technical team can walk them through, or the end to end of the solution, depending on the time. So they can do that. They can do end to end walkthrough, demo. And what they need to do, and the HR or the finance team just need to do the checklist, to check the area that is concerns them, because they may not really know the criteria that needs to be met for the HR team. They may not really know, so they may not be able to pass it. You understand? They will not be able to know whether it's right or wrong. So depending on the areas, they are responsible for it. So you can have it in batches, and you can have them together if they don't really mind. you can have the session together for HR, for finance, for IT team, they can cover it within the section as well, but you can have it separately. So yes, so your stakeholder needs to be there, but the key stakeholders, because like I said, you may gather requirement from about 50 people, but it could be that you have just 6 key stakeholders. So that needs to sign it off. You will know the people that needs to sign off that project. So the solution, then you can, those people needs to attend as well. Is UAT, I don't know. So pretty much, I can't express how you uh, okay, I cannot express how important UAT is. Well, I don't understand that question. Yeah, UAT is very important, very, very important. Because without your UAT, how do we the stakeholder accept the solution? They have to accept the solution. So they have to check it before you can give them, oh, we've delivered this. You can't roll out a solution without people testing it. Despite the fact that the tester have tested it, but from the business side, some people need to test it to make sure it's working according to their requirements or specification. So that is that and that. I presume the UAT stakeholder will be designated using potential. Yes, 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 it could be. Yeah, depending on the. Please, is UAT same thing as no, UAT is different from usability testing. UAT acceptance testing. The acceptance testing, like because I think the usability testing, I think is the tester usually work around that. For me as a BA, I would just say I want to, carry out. We need to schedule UAT testing, user acceptance testing, be it performance testing. I don't know whether they will test the performance to check the load balance, the load, but all my requirements, that the stakeholder, be it the functional requirements or the business or all those things, they need to make sure they check it. But yes, so that is UAT is the general UAT. So they could not have maybe usability testing, they have performance testing, they have functional testing, they have non-functional testing, but everything is still about UAT, is the user acceptance testing. Yeah. UAT, yes, very important. Yeah. What would be or potential be a priority during deployment? Uh, Yes, because during the deployment, because I think the technical team, you will have the deployment team. So, but for me as a BA, because once all the requirements has been met, it depends on what has been documented and what they have signed it to do. If they say you have to be part of the the deployment team, which to be honest, I don't know what they will ask you to do there as part of that. But for rollout, sometimes it could be probably maybe the users training. You understand, the end user training. Sometimes they could ask you to do that, because sometimes I do that as a BA. They will say, oh, Abby, you need to train these people on how they can use the report. Because I know how to use the report, I can do the end user training. So yeah, I don't know. What's the difference in the documentation in Agile? Oh, like I've explained that earlier, the documentation in the Agile, because in Agile, you just do only the bits that is required for that sprint, while in Waterfall, you have to do everything that needs to be covered for the whole project before you can hand that over to the designing team or the supplier to go and do the designing. So you have to do everything. But in Agile, you just have to document requirement just for that specific sprints. So if they, like I said earlier, if they said you are working, for this sprint 2, we will be working on HR requirements. So that means is only HR requirement that will focus on the sprint 2, and that's what I will do for that 2 weeks. I'll make sure I document it, review it, sign it off, and hand it over to the development team, or put it on the collaboration too. Mean that UAT will be required at the end of every sprint on Agile Principle project. In the past project I've worked on, yes, I've always done my UAT. Yes, because if I'm working on HR team for this sprint 2, and I'm working on finance for sprint 3, at the end of the sprint 2, the development team will say is ready. I need to make sure they test it. So that means while in my probably maybe while in during the review session, um we do the demo, they make maybe some comments and we adjusted it. Then I need to organize, set up a UAT session with the HR team to make sure they check it, to make sure everything is right before we can, put it into production. Yes, I will have to do UAT before we can move anything into production. Yes, UAT. For all the ones I've done, yes, I've always done UAT before, yeah, at the end of the sprint. So, but the UAT, I mean, I'll schedule it maybe like maybe two 2 weeks or 1 week after the sprint, after it has been developed by the um by the development team, because it depends on the availability and my own schedule as well, because I still need to gather requirement for other things as well. Yeah. um so I checked it. Is the product owner same as senior user or customer? Because in agile methodology, you use the term for the product owner, because that's the person that will be the client client representative. It could be a senior user within the organization, but the person will have the title of the product owner, because the person will be the one liaising with will be part of the Scrum team, will be liaising with the Scrum Master to make sure this is the roadmap. These are the things that I want you to work on. These are my priorities. It could be one of the senior stakeholders. It could be, or senior user. It could be it could be anyone. Yeah. Is a CIS requirement modeling process for use require. I'm trying to read out this touch points, pinpoint. So I see is yeah, the modeling, that's the process flow. Is your process flow using your swim lane or flow chart, uh data chart, pinpoint. I don't understand that question, sorry. We use Azure DevOps. Okay, you use Azure. Okay, that's good. With the management tool, I guess there will not be need or be hands off to the technical team, depending. I worked on a project whereby the developer said I have to send it to them. They are the one. So, like for example, because if you work on a project, it depends on on how the process. Because you may work on a project that the developer will say, "Oh, Abby, could you please just send that document to me?" And they will be the one to input all those user stories requirements, on the Azure DevOps or Jira. And I've worked on another project whereby I had to, input those requirements and user stories on the board myself. So depending, so you could hands off the BRD to the developers, because sometimes they still say, "Obi, Abi, can you still attach the documents as well?" So you can just attach it once it's been signed off. You can attach it to the Azure DevOps as well. You can, and they may ask you to send it by email. At least the most important thing is that they were able to see the requirements. Yes. Everything is managed, driven with Jira or Azure DevOps tools. Okay. So yeah, so it depends on what they want. So if they want you to still send it by email, fine. If they want you to, but it's advisable that you still, even if they have you to send it by email, it's advisable that you still attach it to that project management tool as well, so that they can easily refer to it. Or if that person that you, for example, you send it to a developer and the person leave the organization maybe after 2 weeks, and you have another new developer, so the person can easily, go to that ticket and just review and check the requirement document that you've attached, to that card. Okay, yeah. So can you? Okay, okay. We check it. See if the thing. Okay. Yeah, you can contact the admin team. Yes, you can contact the admin team. Does one need to be very versatile in Scrum to be able to work well? No, no, no. You don't need to be very versatile in Scrum. To be honest, you just need to understand the terminologies, and it's something you can learn within 1 hour. I can tell you that. You just for you to understand, because as a BA, you just need to know the process. You participate in daily stand up. You know that you only gather requirements bit by bit, and if something is in chunks, it's something to be honest, that does not affect you, or maybe your capability as a BA. No. So it's just a methodology, a process, you understand? And it's something that even if you don't know it, it's something that you can easily blend with within, short time. 1 hour, you can. You're very fast learner. Yeah, you understand all those terminologies. Yeah. How can we have a BA practical experience? That's a that's a quick one. You can send an email to admin. So yes, I think they may, yeah, because you can do for the BA practical, you can, as those people that we have that will do the internship, they can, and you can enroll as well, maybe for special maybe like one-to-one with depending, you can do voluntary as well, you can do that, but you can contact the admin, so they may be able to provide more information on that. Yes. What methodology is suitable for a BAU project? So when you say a BAU project, it's two different things. Is conflicting. BAU is not, business as usual is not a project. You understand? So BAU is one thing, project is another thing. So project is where you have a start and end date of to carry out a particular, activities. So BAU is different. So you can, so methodology to do, so it depends on the project that you're talking about. So BAU project, because all the projects that you're doing, it will still become as a, once you deliver that project, it will still become your BAU process or tax. You understand? So I think that's not really clear. Yes, on that methodology one. And one thing is that there's no methodology that is wrong. So, but the methodology will be decided by the program manager or the project manager. So they will have reason, for that. But Agile should be suitable. Agile, waterfall, they have you have different, different, they have, all the methodology, it depends on the goals and what they're trying to achieve. So there's no methodology that is bad, but it just have the pros and cons. So but the project team or the project program office, they will decide what fits the project, depending, because they will have to determine maybe the division, what they're trying, the deliverables and all those things. They will, but it's not a BA, specialty to decide that. So you just flow with any methodology that they introduce to the project, and you carry out your work. Yeah. um uh okay, please give. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's all for, yeah, I think, yes. Yeah. So, what is the major difference between a BA and a product owner in a BA? So the difference between a BA and a product owner, because you have some roles these days that there was is two in one. They will say BA and a product owner, because they want you as a BA to gather the requirements, and you also act as a product owner, because you will be liaising. You will represent the customer within the development team as well. You will be the one to be prioritizing, because you know the roadmap. As a BA, I may not really know the roadmap. You understand? I may not really know the roadmap. Although I may have maybe from the project brief or something, I may have that understanding, but not really know in depth. So, but the BA, because you are responsible to gather the requirements, to know all the things, that the solution that needs to be provided. But with the guide of the product owner, because the product owner knows the roadmap, we say, oh, we have to work on these first two things. We need to gather the requirements on or from HR and finance, because those are critical ones, before we can move to IT and facility team. So the product owner will know the roadmap, because the person will be involved with the stakeholders, maybe with the board, to be able to know what they need to deliver, when it needs to be delivered. So, and also the product owner will be the one to prioritize the backlog. Even when you gather the requirements, you put all those requirements there. The product owner may say, oh, this is what is the number, the product 321. That's the one we need to do for the next sprint, because maybe the product owner attended a meeting and they said, we need this feature to be developed within the next 4 weeks. So sometimes you may have to combine that role. So you'll be gathering requirements, and at the same time, you'll be acting as a product owner as well. I've done that in the past as well. So and also but it's something that you'll be doing. So it's just that you will be the one to be prioritizing the requirement, because you know what the stakeholders, your customer wants to be delivered, and when it needs to be delivered. What happens if all the post-project benefits are not realized with the BA being trouble, serious trouble. No, it's not the fault of a BA. One thing is that once you document your requirement is what you documented that is being delivered, and is what the customer and the stakeholders giving to you. That's what you documented, and that was what's delivered. So it's not the BA problem. If the project's benefits are not realized, no, because you did not actually design the solution in the first place. So it's not the responsibility of the, because I think it's part of the business justification. I mean, business case. You understand? Why they want to, because the project manager or whoever that that actually gets that project approved from the board would have presented all those statistics saying, oh, if we do this, we will save 4 hours, we'll save 50 hours over the week, this person will be saving this, will save so amounts. So the person would have done all those justification before the board approved that project. So yeah, so because it's not the BA problem if the benefits are not realized. Yes. So if no other, okay, yeah. If no other question, I wish you best of luck. And yeah, so I think that's all for this summer 2020 BA BA course. Yeah.